Hello and welcome to Optmyzr's webinar about managing shopping ads using our tools. So thank you for joining me. My name is Frederick Vallis. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Optmyzr, and we're doing a multi-part webinar series. So if you can see my screen, we're doing 4 different sessions about this same topic today. This is the first one covering shopping ads. We'll be doing one this afternoon for people in Australia and New Zealand, so that'll be 10 a.m. their time. And then we'll also be doing the same session for the European time zone, as well as one in Spanish for Latin America. That's going to be happening next week. We're also going to be doing a separate session in a couple of weeks, and that's going to be on advanced reporting capabilities. And last week I did one on bid and budget management. So if you happen to have missed that one, you can find a copy of the recording just by going to the email with the invitation. Once you go to that, you should be able to get it. Or you can also email us at support@optmyzr.com, and we'll be happy to get you signed up or get you some of the older videos. Any other questions, of course, as well, just support@optmyzr.com. We'll be able to help. If you have any questions for me today throughout the webinar, there's a Q&A window as well as a chat window, so feel free to use either one. I'll be monitoring those and try to help everyone on this call. If you don't feel comfortable asking a question or we don't get to it, again, support@optmyzr.com. We can schedule a one-on-one follow-up later this week. And then we'll be recording. We're currently recording this session, so the video will be shared automatically to anyone who is registered, even if that person didn't attend. And then if you want to meet us in person, so some of the conferences that I tend to speak at, SMX, my next one is going to be SMX West in San Jose. That's coming up in March. HeroConf, the next one is going to be happening in LA. That's going to be in April. And then PubCon is going to be happening in September. And then we also have some other ones in between. My co-founders are speaking at a conference in Germany next month in February. So that's a bit of the housekeeping. Now let's talk about what we want to cover today. So this is about shopping ads. And specifically, I will show you how you can connect your Merchant Center feed to Optmyzr. That's going to be pretty fundamental to get most of these tools to work. You can do some bid management without that step, but to take full advantage of everything we can do, certainly do link up that Merchant Center feed. And then I'm going to start in the beginning, right? So how do you build up that perfect shopping campaign? How do you have the perfect structure? Google actually makes it quite cumbersome to have a very detailed structure. It's very time consuming. In fact, one of my favorite customer quotes we ever got was from a guy who said he could do in 5 minutes what used to take him 5 hours as far as managing the shopping campaign structure. So I'll show you how that was achieved. And then once you've built the perfect structure, it's also really important to keep it in sync with the merchant feed. So we'll show you the shopping refresher tool. And then finally, we're going to take a look at bidding. So again, we covered bidding a little bit last week, but this week we're going to be looking specifically at bid management for product groups. So how can you do this with the rule engine, as well as how can you do it with the shopping bidder tool? What we will not cover today is more generic bid management tools. So geo bid adjustments, device bid adjustments, those types of things, they work equally well across any type of campaign. So that's not specific to shopping. So we covered that in our session last week. And again, that is available as a recording for anyone who wants it. So with that, I am looking at the questions window. So if anyone has any issues with the audio or the video or any other questions, go ahead and pop them in there. Otherwise, I'll get started showing you a live demo of how shopping features work. All right, so if when you're in your Optmyzr account, we have this whole category here, optimizations for shopping campaigns. The first one I've gone to is the shopping campaign builder. Okay, so this is the screen that you see here. The shopping campaign builder is going to help you populate an existing campaign with ad groups and product groups. So it is important that you first have your shopping campaign set up. Now, typically you would just set up a shop campaign through your AdWords account. So if you wanted to do it through our tools, you can actually go here and manage shopping campaigns. We have a very simple interface for making these new shopping campaigns. Or you could just use the AdWords editor, make a new campaign, copy and paste it a couple of times so you have a couple of shells out there. But we're saying which is the campaign that we're going to populate. These checkboxes or these radio boxes only become available after you've connected up your merchant feed. And this is, of course, the case because if we don't have a merchant feed, then it's very hard for us to know what your products are, and hence we can't really make the product grouping structure. So let me show you how you link up your Merchant Center account first. So you would associate one of your emails with Optmyzr, so you would already have any that you had used for AdWords accounts in here. If you're using a different login into Google for your Merchant Center account, you can just link it to Optmyzr with this link. Once you see it in the drop-down menu, you can manually copy and paste your merchant account ID. Okay, so this is this number. If you go to your Google Merchant Center page on the Google website, it's going to have an ID. This is the ID that you want to pop in here, and then you can check it and link it. The first time you do this, we're going to fetch it, and then you have to manually refresh it whenever you want to run one of our tools, right? So we're not automatically going to refetch that data, but you'll come to this page to resync your feed. Now, as far as knowing if it might be time to resync, it says it right here, right? So these are actually demo numbers, so these are incorrect, but this is how many days ago a certain feed was connected up to your account. Okay, so once you have that, we're ready to start building our perfect shopping campaign. So we decide which one we're going to build into. And then the next question is, how do we want to split our products between different product groups? And so oftentimes merchants want to do this in exactly the same way that they structure their website. So take Amazon as an example website. So they have a first level of navigation, which is basically the category of the product. Is it household products? Is it electronics? Et cetera, et cetera. So that would be category 0. Maybe the next level of navigation that they would employ, in which they want to mimic on their AdWords campaigns, would be a second level of category. And then maybe at that second level, they want to split it down by brand. And maybe they have a custom attribute, which is price ranges or some whether something is on sale or on a special. Whatever you have in these custom attributes, you can put in here as well. Notice, by the way, that you do have 5 product categories, but you have to divide them sequentially. So we show you one at a time, and then we show you the next one that's available after the ones you've already used. So product type 0, it's the same case. We have 5 product types. The product type 1 only becomes available after you've deployed product type 0. But anyway, here now we have sort of a division, and let's do a final division by individual item ID. Okay, here we go right there. So item ID. Now, dividing it by item ID is actually pretty important for some of the other tools we're going to show you. So ultimately, it's still a decision that you have to make, whether you want to split your product groups down to the individual item ID. And I'll show you some of the reasons why I think that's a compelling thing to do. But as far as the downsides of splitting all the way to individual products is that you lose some of the benchmark data. So Google has these benchmark CPCs and benchmark CPCs, and those only show up for product groups when you have multiple items in that product group. Okay, but here now we've defined what our split for products will be. We can also say at which level should we be making the ad group. Now, for any user of Optmyzr, by default, you're going to see that you can split at that first level. Okay, so category 0, these could become my individual ad groups. By request, if you need it, and you're sure you want to do this, we can go all the way down to 4 levels of categorization. So we could literally make an ad group at each of these levels. Now, the reason that we ask you to email us if you want to do this is that this can easily create tens of thousands of new ad groups. And so we just want to make sure that you understand that and have really thought about the structure before doing that type of operation on your account, because it can take quite a while and maybe create a little bit more structure than you were hoping. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's make ad groups for each of the top level categories. And then we go next, and now what it's doing is it's fetching the data from my merchant feed, and it's telling me, okay, we're going to create 5 new ad groups. These are the names of the ad groups. And within those, we're going to create 6,598 product groups. So now I can open up and I can say, okay, well, within home and garden, remember we were splitting by the first level of category and then the second level of category, so linens and bedding. And then beyond that, we were splitting by brand. So we have all of these. And then if I click on this one level further, you're actually going to see the item IDs, because that's the last level I was using for my split. So here, you've created a fairly sophisticated set of groupings, which would actually take you quite a bit of time if you wanted to do it manually through AdWords. Now, to apply this to your account, you click on this button here. It asks you for some verifications, and then you can also give a prefix. So just so that you're able to distinguish which ad groups we just generated, you will give them a prefix, and that will be put in front of the ad group name. Of course, you can put that in here temporarily and then change that through the AdWords editor if you really didn't want to use some sort of a prefix. But after you click Submit Changes here, that's when we're going to start building the 5 ad groups and the 6,598 product groups. Now, the other thing you can do here before you build this out is set up your bids. Okay, so let's again say home and garden, linens and bedding. So now imagine that we knew that for the Gildan brand, we're actually able to bid a little bit more than $2. So we can come in here, we bid $3, and that part you may actually not see on the screen share, but I just had a dialog that asked me to put in the bid. Now, what's cool here is in red we've highlighted anything that we've changed the bid for. In Google, if you were to change the bid at a parent product group or at the ad group level, it actually would overwrite everything below it, because unlike keyword targeted ads, product listing ads are not smart enough to kind of know about the inheritance of bids. So it doesn't know this is a specific bid that's not inherited from the parent. But with our system, if you then said, well, linens and bedding as a category, I only want to spend $1.50, I put in $1.50 here. In AdWords, Gildan would have also changed back to $1.50, but here we're smart enough to know you'd already changed that, so we keep that bid. So this is a bit of a way for you to quickly set up some new bids. The other thing that we do, which is a little bit different than AdWords, is if you change the bid at that ad group level, it actually is going to inherit down to all of the children, which in AdWords doesn't happen. The ad group bid for product groups is actually completely useless. As far as I can tell anyway. So, but in our system, we do propagate that down. So once you've done this, you can build that out, and now you'll have your perfect structure. So there's a question about this. So how do you clear product groups if you want to change the order? So unfortunately, there's no way to do that. You kind of have to reload this this whole page. So you go back to step number 1, right here. All your changes will be lost, and then here we don't have the capability to delete from this list. Obviously, it's something we could do. We just have so many other products we're trying to build, and what we're finding is most of the time people just hit refresh, and because this is pretty quick to restructure, they can then do it whatever way they see fit. So that's how that works. Also have a comment from Lindsay. We love you, Frederick. We love you too, Lindsay, so thanks for that. So any other questions on this, just pop them into the questions box there, but I'm going to move on now to the shopping refresher. Okay, and the concept with the shopping refresher is very simple. So the merchant feed is something that the company, the retailer typically maintains, and that depends on which products they sell, what prices they sell, and for which brands they start selling. The product groups and the ad groups that you create in AdWords are based off of a static copy of that merchant feed. So when you created that structure, it depended on which brands, for example, your client was selling or your company was selling. If 2 weeks from now, after you've already created the ad group structure, there's a new brand that comes into the mix, well, AdWords doesn't know about that. That's why you have the bucket of everything else, so that anything not captured in one of your existing structures will just go to everything else. But that's not ideal, right? If you have a new brand, you probably want to set the correct bid for that brand. Now, we know this is an incredibly cumbersome process because the merchant has to remember to tell the PPC manager whenever anything changes in the feed, and they have to know what of that is important. So did you actually structure by brand? Should I be telling you there's a new brand? Or did you not care about the brand? Did you just put every product in a single product group ID, right? So there's a whole communication issue, becomes really cumbersome. So what we've done is we got this shopping refresher. So what you do periodically is you say, I want to refresh this particular campaign and this particular ad group. Okay, so we do it ad group by ad group, and then we will tell you within this ad group, it looks like there's actually 86 new structural elements that we need to add, and there's 4 that are no longer necessary. By default, we will only suggest making the new ones and leaving the ones that are no longer necessary in place. But if you wanted to remove it, just click the box, and then we'll also remove what is no longer necessary. And then if you wanted to understand what exactly those new entities were, well, you can see here that they had previously structured this campaign by brand and by product type 0. And back in the past, they had Adidas crew necks, but recently they've actually added a new level of product type, which is men, ladies, and mock neck. So these need to be added. And then you can open up each of these individually, and then you'll see what becomes added through that. So rather than you having to communicate back and forth with whoever manages the merchant feed, now you go through a tool like this. It automatically figures out your existing structure in AdWords, maps that to the merchant feed and whatever is in there at this point in time, and then we'll build that out for you. And of course, that happens as a one-click optimization. So once you click on that link right there, that's when the whole thing gets pushed back into AdWords. Okay, let's see. We have a couple of additional questions. So Zach is asking, do you have to continually update the feed? So yes, you do have to update the feed. I recommend anytime, I mean, certainly when you run the Shopping Refresher Pro or the Shopping Refresher, which I'm showing you right now. You'll also have to do it when I show you the Shopping Bidder, the Pro version, and that's coming up in a few minutes. But yeah, anytime we show you on the left-hand side that we're actually using a certain feed, that's when you want to make sure that that's been relatively recently updated. And then Lindsay's asking, once we ignore a change, if we decide later to pull it through, can we refresh and see it again? Yes. So if at this point, and I believe you're talking about this tool, but if you said we're not going to add the whole men's category, we're going to build that out just with ladies and mock neck. The next time you come back to the tool, if that product type 0 of men is still in the feed and it's still not in your structure, we will then recommend it for addition. So, if you want to be very cautious and do one set of optimizations at a time, that's totally fine. And by the way, I do recommend kind of keeping these around, not deleting, because sometimes this could happen because a product goes out of stock. It doesn't mean it's never coming back. So I'd be more cautious with removal rather than addition. So that's how all of that works. So now the thing you may have noticed is, well, I have to do this ad group by ad group. If I've built out a really detailed structure using the shopping builder, I may have hundreds of ad groups. It's kind of cumbersome for me to go and run this tool one at a time. So what we have is the Shopping Campaign Refresher Pro. Okay, so I've already preloaded it here. So this is a pro level feature. If you don't see it in your account, you can just email us and we can give you access to it on a free trial basis. But basically here what you do is you select a specific campaign. So here I've selected this campaign, and then it goes and processes each ad group within that campaign. So then very quickly you can see a couple of interesting things here. So Shopping Hanes, that is an existing ad group that's marked in blue. All of these green ones with a star in front of them, these are actually new ad groups it would create. So this tool goes beyond just adding new product groups. It can also figure out how you've typically structured your ad groups, in this case based on just the brand of the product. And it can say, well, you don't have an ad group yet for Bella and Canvas. So you might want to go and create that. And then once you click on this, it'll show you that same view. So, okay, we've divided it by brand, and then we subdivided that by product type 0. And then if you keep clicking, it'll show you all of the further subdivisions. So it's a very quick way to keep your AdWords structure in sync with what's in the merchant feed. And so the Shopping Refresher Pro does it for an entire campaign all at once. And then this is sortable, of course, too. So you could say, well, let's see where we're going to be making removals, kind of highlight these first, and then you could say, well, show me where these removals are living. Okay, so that's the Shopping Refresher Pro. The next thing I want to show you is the Shopping Bidder. All right, so I've already loaded this one up as well. So here we have gone into a demo account. And by default, this tool will load up to show you any product group in your account that has a return on ad spend greater than 100%. Okay, so these are potentially all of your winners. You can also say, show me all of my product groups or show me the ones that are not making any money. From here, you see all of the ad groups and all of the product groups that correspond. And then you can say, well, because all of these are actually making profit, I want to increase my bids by some percentage. Once you update that, it puts the new CPC value in that right column right there. And then from here, you can still tweak it. So say this one should be 50 cents. And then it's not until you actually apply the bid changes that it will be sent into AdWords. Okay, so this is one way to do it. Now, a couple of other things. You might say return on ad spend greater than 100%. That's not actually what I care about. I want to have a return on ad spend that's at least 500%. So you open up your custom filters, and let's make this 501%. By the way, the ranges, the numbers that you see in here, this is the upper bound. So for me to set it to 200,000 would basically return no results because the highest return on ad spend we have in this account is at that level. By the way, when we have a fantastic ROAS, let's also make sure that that's at least based on 2 conversions. So let me apply that filter, close it out. Now you see we have 10 product groups that meet those conditions. The return on ad spend is not visible right there, so let's turn that on right there so you can see what that's doing. Okay, so here we have these high return on ad spends greater than 500%, where the number of conversions is also greater than 2. So I can turn on my conversions to validate that we're looking at the right data. Okay, so that's how all of that works. So from here, then you can of course submit these bids. Once you build this filter, if you want to reuse that very easily the next time, just go here and then save that filter. By the way, if you save the filter for your team, it means it will be available for you to use as part of a custom workout. So that's a really powerful feature where you can build your own optimization workflows using exactly your methodology. So that happens right there. A couple of the options here on the left. Obviously, you can do this for different campaigns. You can change the date range we're looking at. You can also hide any product groups for which you've used this tool to change the bid in the last 7 days. So if you've used this Optmyzr tool, you change the bid, you don't want to change it too frequently, you can automatically hide it. If you make the bid change manually through AdWords, we do not pick up on that, right? So this is just changes made within this tool that we can hide. And then as far as the advanced settings, so you might look at this and you might say, well, I don't really trust any data until it has at least 100 clicks. Okay, well, so you can do a cool thing. You can do a roll-up. When you do a roll-up, you can say what metric are we rolling up and what's the level to which we're rolling it up. So let's say 100 clicks. It's refreshing all the data. And now let me actually go and take a look not just at return on ad spend being positive, but let me look at all my product groups and have them aggregated to at least 100 clicks. Okay, so what this dark blue ad group is showing me is that there's actually no individual product groups with more than 100 clicks, but we've combined them. So we say there's 143 combined product groups, and if we combine them, then we get to 200 clicks. So maybe now you can make a bid management decision based on that commonality, the fact that these all were dark blue. Here is a more interesting example. So in the dark pink ad group, we can actually tell you that stoles versus heels, we were able to split that out because each of these subcategorizations now had enough data points for us to help you. And because these are also slightly different products, now it's interesting because you can set different bids for those groupings. You can also click on these, on some of these at least, and what we do in this case is we show you bid ranges. So because the bids for these dark pink stoles range from 21 cents to 44 cents currently, you may not just want to make one bulk bid change for all 6 of them. So we've split it out here and we say, well, there's actually 3 product groups bidding between 21 and 28 cents, and there's another 3 bidding at the 44 cent level. So maybe this one I'm going to increase a little bit, and this one I'm going to increase a little bit as well, but of course, not everything is going to that 49 cent level. Now these lower current bids are staying at a lower current bid level. So that's how the roll-up works. Now the roll-up, important to understand, and let me reload this page, but it's important to understand the roll-up only works for the way that you've split your product group. So if you said I'm going to split it by category 0 and then the brand, we will only do the roll-ups based on those 2 levels of splitting. And that's kind of annoying because it means that depending on how you structure things, you may actually be missing certain important insights. So maybe there's something about product type that would have been an interesting insight. So for that reason, we have built the Shopping Bidder Pro. We're still kind of finalizing this tool, but very soon you will all have access to it, and it's pretty amazing, I think, what it can do. So let me show you. So what you would do again is you would say I'm bidding for a certain campaign. So you do one campaign at a time. The reason we ask you to do one campaign at a time is because we are going to pull a bunch of additional data here. But now, say that in my product groups, I had split it by brand and category 0. But I actually wanted to understand performance across some different attributes. So I wanted to understand performance, say, for category level 0, and that combining it with the color. Right? These are, by the way, if you go to the dimensions reports in AdWords, these attributes are not available in that report, but we do have access to them, so we can give you a report based on color. So now what we do is we look at individual product IDs, and we reconstitute the data. We see what would have happened if we had split it using these two factors, these two facets. Now this is a demo account, so we don't actually have numbers for these, but what's interesting is that you can see within this Adidas ad group, the category level 0, it's all apparel and accessories, and then for the different color combinations that they have, it happens that there are two product groups or two products that are collegiate navy and white, and then for all of the others we have just one. Okay, but now you can start seeing these data points based on commonalities across the different facets that you want to look at. So you could literally do something where you say, give me a report on color. If you happen to find that red things convert twice as well as blue things, from here you can actually set the bids now. So you can say, for red things, let me increase my bids by 10%. And we sort of know what the attributes are. So we haven't told you which products this is for, but once you apply these bids, we're going to go look in your product grouping structure, figure out which product groups have certain products that meet these two conditions of being apparel and accessories and this color scheme, and we're going to update those bids. Now this only works if you've split your product groups down to the individual product ID. And that obviously, hopefully makes sense, and that's because if you have two products in the same product group, you must set the bid for the product group. And so one of these products may be blue, the other may be red. So at that point, we can no longer sort of distinguish between those two, set different bids. So this tool won't work. So for this tool to work, for you to be able to take advantage of it, you have to have your product groups contain exactly one product ID, a single item. So this is a great way to start finding those commonalities between items and help you set bids regardless of how you structure things. All right, so let me take you on to the final tool. This is one I showed last week as well, so anyone who was on that webinar, this should look familiar, but this is the bid rule engine. Actually, it's the rule engine because it can do more than bidding at this point. But let's show how this one works. So let's actually go ahead and remove this rule and make a new one. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to set up a new rule set, and these are rules that we want to run automatically on product groups. So this is obviously shopping, right? So what we might want to do is say, find me any product group with a cost that's greater than a certain amount, say $10. Okay, now as far as cost, what do we actually mean? So is it cost for all devices or specific subsets of devices? So by default, it's all devices. What is the date range for that cost? So let's grab, say, last 30 days. And are we asking about the cost of the individual product group or one of the parent entities? And this is nice because we could actually start combining different metrics. So we could say, find me a product group with a lot of spend, with no conversions, but that also lives in an ad group that has a lot of conversions. So maybe it's an anomaly within an ad group. So you can sort of mix and match these things. So anyway, you can say cost is greater than 10. And then what do you want to do in case of that action? So let me do something more sophisticated. So you could say set my bid to some sort of a formula where perhaps we're going to take something like the conversion rate and multiply that by some target cost per acquisition. Okay, so you can see how this gets pretty cool because you can build all these custom formulas. So it's no longer just raising and decreasing the bids by some percentage or some value, but it's actually setting the bids based on some underlying set of data. Now in this case, I do want to keep it a little bit simpler, so I'm just going to say decrease my bids by 10%. Okay, so once you've built that product group, once you've built this rule, you can build multiple rules. So I could copy this. This will automatically duplicate it. And then I could maybe make a rule for cost is greater than 20. Obviously, when you look at this, you're going to say it's a pretty dumb rule that I've done, but keep in mind you can set multiple conditions, right? So you could have said cost is greater than X, conversions are smaller than something, and my impression share loss is also greater than something. Maybe in that case, that's when I want to change my bids. So, but once you've built your rules, you can say preview these, and in the preview, we're going to fetch data from this account. Did I do that before? Yeah, so I ran it before, so it could take a couple of seconds. So, but here's what might come out of that. So these are the product groups, these are the current bids, these are the new bids that we would start setting, and this is because we met rule number 1. So you can then figure out what is rule number 1 specifying. If you have multiple rules, you can also filter. So you can say, show me everything that matched rule number 15. And then you can figure out, okay, is rule number 15 doing the job that you were expecting it to do? You can also segment it by different campaigns. So anyway, based on this, you can say, I like these changes, or I only like a handful of them. So I'm going to check the ones I like. We're going to instantly apply those changes. And then very soon, or if you email us even sooner, we can automate this. So from the automation portion, we'll give you a piece of AdWords script code, install it into your account. And then from there, you can run it as often as once per hour, once per day, once per week, whatever schedule suits your needs. So that's the rule engine as it applies to shopping campaigns. So that's an overview specifically of the shopping capabilities that we have in Optmyzr. So again, if I didn't cover something that you were hoping to see, do shoot us an email at support@optmyzr.com. That's all I've got to show, so I will stick around, answer a few more questions. But if you don't have any questions, hopefully this was helpful, pointed you in the right direction. And thank you for attending, and hope to see you on the next webinar, which will be on reporting. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Okay, now we have a question about importing double-click conversions. So no, currently in Optmyzr, all of the conversion data that we use is whatever sits in Google AdWords. Now, as far as the rule engine, so the last thing that I showed you, that is able to connect to some offline conversion data, or really any data that you want. So long as that data lives in a Google spreadsheet, you can actually give access to that Google spreadsheet to the rule engine. And of course, you have to associate the data to a specific campaign or ad group or keyword or product group, which means you have to have a special format for the spreadsheet. But once you've done that, you can actually pull in those custom offline pieces of data. And yes, that could be double-click conversion data as well. So that's possible. So Lindsay, if you want to follow up on that, I can certainly try to get that going for you. Another question is, do we only support Google shopping campaigns or also Bing? No, at this point, this is only for Google AdWords. We have it on the roadmap to extend these capabilities to Bing, Bing shopping ads, as well as Facebook shopping ads. So anyone who's really into the shopping ad space, do let us know if that's like your highest product priority, because obviously we're balancing a number of things we want to build, but we're very strongly considering doing those things next. All right, very good. So I think those are the questions. People are saying thank you. So again, I will thank you as well for using Optmyzr, taking some time out of your busy days to take a look at what we can help you with, hopefully. And my personal email is frederick@optmyzr.com, so you can use that as well if you have any questions. But have a great afternoon. Bye now.